How is BRICS unsettling the Western powers that have long enjoyed dominance, remaining unchallenged for centuries? While the Western bloc, like the European Union, G7 and G20, may not openly express much anxiety about BRICS, behind closed doors, the reality presents a different story. This unprecedented shift signifies the emergence of a formidable rival reshaping global power dynamics, displacing the Western bloc from its position of authority. Well, we are talking about BRICS, the new king in town that is making the old players nervous. But how is BRICS achieving this? You may have heard that BRICS is causing unease among Western powers, yet little attention is given to how this is being accomplished. Put simply, BRICS is hitting where it hurts the most, from the strategy of dominating the world economy, expanding for a broader membership, and proposing a new currency to replace the US dollar. But how does BRICS compare to the European Union, given that new members have joined it? Let's find out. It's interesting to know that BRICS was made naturally. In other words, the term BRICS, denoting the economic coalition of nations like Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, didn't originate from these countries themselves. Surprisingly, it was coined by Goldman Sachs economists Jim O'Neill and Rupa Purushothaman for strategic reasons. Initially, these economists only considered Brazil, Russia, India, and China, hence the term BRIC, leaving out South Africa. This distinction was highlighted in a report published by Goldman Sachs, providing valuable insights into the rationale behind the term. This occurred in the early 2000s when the report predicted that this group of four economies, known as BRIC, would surpass the world's developed economies in terms of growth. Now, this prediction is coming true, with these economies being forecasted to outpace Western economies by 2050, as reported by Goldman Sachs. However, this forecast does not account for the newly added members, which have changed the entire dynamics. And that's when we have to talk about what BRICS today is. Goldman Sachs had not added South Africa in its reports. However, the countries forming BRICS could not leave South Africa out due to its spectacular economic growth. Therefore, South Africa was added, and we saw a block of the five fastest-growing economies in the world sitting at a table. What they did together was nothing short of a surprise. In 2021, these five nations' combined gross domestic product, or GDP, soared to an impressive $25.85 trillion, surpassing that of the EU, which was only $14 trillion. Yes, that's where the EU economy finds itself outmatched. You should know that we are including 27 countries in the EU that call themselves the most developed and are at the heart of the West. Despite this, they could not compete with only five BRICS nations. What's more, to assert their influence and offer an alternative to Western-dominated institutions like the International Monetary Fund and World Bank, BRICS members established the New Development Bank in 2014 with a reserve of $50 billion. They also established a contingent reserve arrangement to assist member countries financially. In this way, countries in need of funds could get them without any strings attached. This alternative approach is increasingly attractive to non-BRICS countries as it offers impartial aid without compromising their sovereignty. In contrast, Western institutions like the World Bank and IMF have faced criticism for exerting influence and compromising countries' sovereignty rather than genuinely assisting them during financial crises. And that's when we have to talk about BRICS expansion. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. The growing appeal of BRICS is apparent as more countries expressed interest in joining. Earlier, nations like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Egypt, Algeria, Nigeria, Iran, Bahrain, Mexico, Turkey, Argentina, and several African countries showed their intention to join BRICS. It was considered too idealistic that countries like Saudi Arabia and UAE would ever join BRICS. Now we know that Saudi Arabia, UAE, Egypt, Ethiopia, and Iran have joined BRICS, and this has changed everything. With Saudi Arabia and UAE's oil, BRICS have gotten leverage that they lacked earlier. Now, with a combination of Russia, UAE, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, which ultimately leads OPEC, BRICS will have the power to even set global oil prices. But besides this, the new members have made BRICS a bigger economic power than before. Now, the bloc has a massive GDP of $30 trillion, which accounts for 29% of the world's GDP. In comparison, the EU has a GDP of $15.8 trillion. It becomes clear that BRICS does not have to wait to overpower the EU. It already did that long ago, and its new members are now allowing it to compete. compete with G7. Well, BRICS, with its new members, plans to now dethrone G7 by changing the very financial system that gives the Western powers all the leverage. This is being achieved by de-dollarization. BRICS is urging its allies to shift away from the dollar. Moreover, it's taking an unprecedented step, accumulating gold to establish a tangible currency, replacing the US dollar. Yes, it resembles Muammar Gaddafi's vision of introducing the gold dinar. But for this plan to succeed, BRICS needs a substantial reserve of gold, right? Well, concerns are rising among experts in the United States due to a significant decrease in the amount of gold and silver held in major precious metal exchanges like the London Metal Exchange and COMEX. Over the past 18 months, a significant portion of silver, approximately 70% and 45% of gold bars registered on COMEX, have been bought and taken off the market. Many have questioned whether BRICS could be behind this trend. However, recent reports from credible sources like Bloomberg have confirmed that BRICS members are indeed accumulating significant quantities of gold and silver, led by China. According to Bloomberg, central banks, especially those of China, Russia, India, and Saudi Arabia, purchased a staggering 399 tons of gold in the third quarter of 2022. So what does BRICS aim to achieve by accumulating vast amounts of gold and silver? This is where you need to understand how BRICS is challenging a cornerstone of Western economics, the Bretton Woods Agreement. Following this agreement, which established the supremacy of the US dollar, all countries agreed to adopt the dollar as the global currency. This agreement gave the United States and the Western powers a significant advantage, as countries held dollars, thereby strengthening their value. However, BRICS nations, particularly China and Russia, have emerged as challengers to Western dominance and are working to establish a new system. Russia and China are developing a new currency backed by the gold they have amassed. In contrast, the US dollar lacks physical assets and is essentially a fiat currency authorized by the US government. Additionally, Saudi Arabia, a key member of the OPEC oil cartel, is now in BRICS and can help it de-dollarize the world. In fact, it will be Saudi Arabia and OPEC that will play a crucial role in the success of the BRICS currency, as they were instrumental in empowering the Bretton Woods Agreement in the first place. As Saudi Arabia has joined BRICS, it will also dispose of its dollar reserves, which means oil will be sold in local or new BRICS currency, and the present US dollar reserves will be drained in markets. This would lead to widespread abandonment of the Bretton Woods system, with countries embracing the new financial order and the currency issued by BRICS. Consequently, there would be an influx of dollars in the market, rendering them practically worthless. The process of reducing reliance on the dollar, known as de-dollarization, is already in progress. Russia has been leading the charge, and even U.S. commercial banks are reducing their dependence on the dollar due to concerns about its future value. If all 200 countries demand a new system, major financial institutions like the IMF and World Bank will be compelled to adapt and move away from the dollar as well. Although this transition may pose challenges for the US and the West, the reality of a shifting global financial landscape will become evident sooner than expected. Even Wall Street has said that the era of USD is finished. What do you think? Is the era of the Western blocs like the European Union, G7, and G20 over? Isn't it true that BRICS now has some of the world's richest members that can help it forge a new world order? In the comment section right below, let us know your thoughts on BRICS and the EU's future. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.